Hello, everybody. I'm pleased to introduce the Toastmaster of the day, who is also my mentor, Matt.
Right. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Toastmasters today, May 6th. It's a wonderful sunny day, cold, but it's wonderful to see all of you. It's very warming. Tonight's theme is Pursue Excellence. And the very first thing I thought of when I heard this theme was this movie. Maybe it's backwards for you. Three Idiots. Who has seen this movie? So half, more than half. Awesome. If you haven't, you definitely should watch it. My good friend, whose name is also Matt, told me way back in 2008, I think it was, there's this movie in the theater and we need to see it. It's called The Three Idiots. And I said, no, that sounds horrible. I'm not watching it. And he asked me 3 times and we finally went, and it was amazing. This movie talks about excellence in many ways. And if you can see on this front cover, their pants are down. There's a very good quote in this movie that says, "Pursue excellence and success will come chasing you pants down. It'll catch you by surprise." And this made me think a lot about what is excellence. Is excellence a 4.0? Is excellence a job in Silicon Valley? Is excellence anything you could name it, a sports car? I believe that really excellence is anything that expands your heart and grows your courage. And that is what this movie is all about, is being real to our hearts and having courage. And so that's what we're here tonight for, is to grow closer, expand our hearts, have a little more courage. Whether you're doing a speech you've been preparing for, or you're gonna raise your hand for table topics and just be here and allow everyone's stories and who they are to permeate you and really take it in, even if we're distanced. We're here to pursue excellence. That is what Toastmasters really is about, is being adept at pursuing excellence. So for our meeting tonight, we have 3 sections. The first are the prepared speeches. Those who have worked hard to really create something and share it with us. The second is table topics. You don't have to do any prior work. You can just go and get up there and, well, stay right there and raise your hand and share something right off the cuff. And finally, evaluations. We'll hear how the speakers could get better, what they did that was wonderful, and we learn from each other this way. To move us along, we've got functionaries who have a role. And so let's hear from our counter first. Our counter is Alicera. Alicera, tell us what you'll be doing.
Good evening. As your hack counter, I will be looking out for filler words and constructions.
All right. Okay, next our timer. Our timer is Hassan. Hassan, tell us about the timing rules.
Hello, everybody. We'll have first 3 speeches, and the speaker should deliver a speech within 5 to 7 minutes. So at 5 minutes, I will show them the green card. At 6 minutes, the yellow card, and then at 7 minutes, the red card, and they will have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you, Hassan. And finally, our grammarian, Alex. Tell us about being the grammarian.
Hi, everyone. I will be your grammarian for tonight. I'll be looking for correct pronunciation of words and chances for us to improve that, as well as turns of phrase that add to or take away from the power of your message. So find ways to creatively use words to make your message stick, and I will take note of it in my report. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Alex. All right. We have a wonderful full room here, 20. This is impressive. I don't know if you're in gallery mode, but it's pretty awesome. We are going to jump into our prepared speeches, and tonight we have 3 of them, which is quite a full composite. And we'll start off with, we're going to have Chitra speak to us and share something that's on her heart. And Kelly is her evaluator. So Kelly, if you could tell us what to expect and what project is this?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Tonight we get to hear Chitra give another speech. If some of you haven't heard her yet, it'll be a privilege. She is following the leadership development pathway. She's in level 2, doing project 3 on mentorship. Tonight I asked her what to be looking for, and she said she wants to look for ways that she can connect with the audience, especially virtually right now, and provoke everyone to think deeply and ways to improve that connection. And I will give her some feedback afterwards about the things that she has strengths and excels in and things that she can take away to improve on her future speeches. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. So to introduce the speakers and other roles tonight, I came up with a question that was, of the people and characters you've run across and read about in books, who is one that you would like to be mentored by? And I'm a little proud of that question. I think it's a good one. So for Chitra, I asked her, who would you like to be mentored by of who you've run across in books? And she said Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama wrote a book called Becoming. And in this book, Michelle tells us how important it is to have goals and how to keep reaching those goals. And then Chitra said, this is a simple yet powerful thing that everyone can learn from. And I think that is a wonderful mentor and person to look up to, Chitra, is Michelle Obama. Okay. And so with that, let's welcome our president, Chitra, who is going to talk to us and speak a speech entitled Night Follow the Day. Night Follow the Day, Chitra.
When I'm confused with the path I should go, when I'm confused with what the real feedback is for my actions, how do I evaluate my actions? Ladies and gentlemen, I lean towards my mentors. When we hear the word mentor, we usually associate with one person or multiple personalities where we have learned to grow from, where we have learned the best parts of them and the worst parts of them and helped us mold our lives. When you hear the word mentor, how would you describe your favorite mentor? Anybody over here? Grant, how would you explain your mentor in a word?
Inspiring.
What about Ashutosh? How would you explain your mentor?
I'd say exemplary. Sorry.
Exactly. Ajita, what would you think about your mentor?
I would say fierce.
These are the strong qualities we think what our mentors should have in us. They help us to move flow in the path we want us to go and achieve. They help us in guiding us in a way we want to see ourselves in the future. Let me tell you a small story when I was young, how my parents as a mentors taught me many things. Every week they used to take me to the grocery store, and then they take different types of items over there. And I see that when they buy huge list of items, the bill is huge. When the items are less, the bill is less. They try to teach me the concept of money through that. They told me to observe and learn. They try to tell me that you take what is necessary for you and save the rest. Then later, as I grew older, when I went to my primary and then high school, my parents started giving me in pocket money. They told me that this is how money is given to us by your parents on things which you like to spend on. You could spend on whatever you would like to do. Then they would evaluate on my actions. These are good things you bought, these are the bad things you bought. But they always had one thing, the overprotective cover. We had a chance to experiment and chance to fail and learn from that, but they still held them with us. Though there are many things, as all of you said, how a mentor should be exemplary, fierce, they're all qualities of mentorship taken. But there is a negative side to the mentorship as well. Do you guys have ever thought about it? Have you ever thought that being with a mentor makes you more lazier than usual? You're like, yeah, my mentor will tell me what to do and what not to do. You know what? I'll ask my mentor what to do. I do not know what to do. Blindly following steps on that. I remember when I was in my grade 12, my friends in class, I was like, what do you want to become in future? They say, my parents wanted me become an engineer. I don't know what I wanted to do, so I'm choosing that path. We sometimes blindly follow such paths. We do not know where we head again. There are places where we also think that our mentors are not enough for us. The speed at which we grow and the speed at which they grow, or the field which they are growing, is different from what we are. Like how the grape creeper climbs on a stick and later realizes that the stick is what it gave us strength, and without the stick, it is weak. The grape falls down. Mentor should be a place where we can grow and help and learn from, not just being a stick to the grape creeper. What we can learn from mentor is different from what we can do as a mentor. As a mentor, we can be always looking forward to help people on different bases. There are many ways that might work for somebody and might not work for somebody else. And that is all because of how our independence and mentorship goes together hand in hand. We sometimes become independent, sometimes we take the words of our mentor. The question is, where do we draw the line between mentorship and independence? And that's up to you to take it, how your mentorship relationship to go on. With that, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Chitra, for those very wise thoughts on mentorship. And where is it lapse over into maybe codependence and not being autonomous enough? Excellent. Let's take 1 minute and send Chitra some thoughts in the chat function on the bottom. What did you enjoy? What did you love? What might she improve with? So timer, if we can have 1 minute, just wave when there's 1 minute done. All right, moving on to our second speaker, who is Surreal. Grant is evaluating Surreal. So Grant, give us a overview of what we can expect and what project this is.
Thank you, Matt. Surreal is giving his 5th speech tonight. In it, he's hoping to inspire the audience to share love around the world. The speech is aimed at helping him find and master his style. I'll be looking out for how well he was able to inspire the audience and his ability to tell stories in English, which isn't his mother tongue. I wish you the best of luck, Surreal.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you so much. I also asked Surreal, of the books that he's read, who would he want to be mentored by as a character or person in one of those books? And he told me the last book that he has read was called Prosperity Paradox, written by Dr. Clayton Christensen, who was the father of disruptive technology. Surreal would love to be mentored by Dr. Clayton Christensen, the author. Unfortunately, this man passed away a few weeks ago, but he learned a lot from him. In particular, he was inspired by his book, which said, How Will You Measure Your Life?, where he teaches that most important thing in life is not success and accomplishment, but our ability to grow as good and loving human beings. Beautiful, beautiful, Surreal. All right. The title of Surreal's speech is Spread the Love. Surreal.
If there is anything that the world is really in need of right now, it's love. And we have to share it as far as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Toastmasters, my dad is a doctor, and growing up, we used to receive a lot of strangers in our house coming to see my father because they wanted to get checked for free because they couldn't afford to go to the hospital. Sometimes some of them will stay in our house for days, and my mom will make sure they have food and a place to stay. At times I was really upset because we never got to stay alone in our house and enjoy our parents, nor did we have to enjoy a nice breakfast with them. Sometimes we'll have to wake up early in the morning to open the doors to those strangers. One day, I decided to talk to my dad. I went to him and I said, Dad, why is it that all those strangers are coming to our house and eating our food? He looked at me in the eye, put his hand over me and said, Manere Beoyinga, which means do some good today because of tomorrow. It didn't make sense to me, but I decided to get involved somehow. I started helping my parent set up the place early in the morning to receive the strangers and help my mom prepare for breakfast. One day, somebody knocked at our door. I woke up sleepily and I went to the door and opened. It was an old man, almost 60 years old, and he was having trouble even walking. I helped him walk into the house and gave him a place to sit. I brought him food and hot beverage. I told him that my dad was going to see him shortly. I then decided to spend some time exchanging a few words with him. When I was getting ready to go get my dad, he told me, "Young man, your dad is a good man, and I can see you are too. Keep on being like this. You will never lose face, nor will you ever be angry or lack of a place to stay." It didn't even make sense to me again, but it was until I arrived here in the United States that I realized the power of what my dad and that old man once told me. Moving here in the United States, I didn't have any family, nor did I know someone. But I came across this man called Marcel after I put a post on Facebook asking for somebody to host me. Marcel agreed to host me for 2 weeks. He didn't only host me, he also fed me and he provided me with transportation. He helped me through the process of finding an apartment. I didn't have money to pay for my security deposit, but Marcel paid for both for me and for my roommate. That was the first time that somebody is showing love to me in the United States, but it wasn't gonna be the last time. After a few months, I met this lady, Amy Ortiz, and her husband. They took me and my roommate as one of theirs. They often will host dinners for us, take us to restaurants, teach us and guide us through the US cultures, and more often, they will invite us at their place. One night, we were spending some time watching a movie at their apartment, and they asked, "Do you guys have a TV?" We said no. They didn't say anything. The next day, my roommate and I were getting ready to return home. And when we were parking, the husband, Mike, called, hey guys, come down. We have something for you." We ran downstairs, and what did we see? A 50-inch TV set. That was too much. My roommate and I decided not to take it because they already done a lot of things for us. And they told us, we are not doing this just because we want to help you. We're doing this because some people have helped us in the past. And what we want from you is that you do the same for other people. That day, I learned from this experience and the others that the most important thing is when we are able to share love with the others. My roommate and I took the TV at home, and that day I was very silent. One thing kept on coming in my mind, Manere Beoyinga, which my father has repeated to me when I was a child. I learned from those experiences that love is powerful, and the more we spread it, the more we share it, the better the world becomes. I want us today to become love adepts. And I wanted to thank Alex, my love adept mentor, that shared with me this song this morning. It's a song from Stevie Wonders. And from this song, I want to invite all of us to become love adepts, to spread the love. And because the bigger the chain, the better the world becomes. And I would like to invite you to sing that song with me today. Don't mind my voice. Just assume I'm Stevie Wonders. The title is Love is in Need of Love Today. Come on and sing with me. Love is in need of love today. Don't delay. Send your Zena right away. Come and sing with me. Love is in need of love today. Don't delay. Send your Zena right away. Mr. Toastmaster.
Cyril, that was wonderful. You can go into the archives of singers and their speeches. That embodied excellence, 100%. That was beautiful. Thank you. Let's take 1 minute and tell Cyril everything you loved about that speech and maybe something he could do a little better. Hassan, 1 minute. All right, and finally, we have Brendan, who has come to give us a speech. Brendan is being evaluated by Deb. Deb, give us an overview of what Brendan's going to bring to us.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Brendan, our area director, fantastically, is going to be doing his Dynamic Leadership Level 3 project of negotiating the outcome. So the purpose of this speech is to learn about different types of negotiation and strategies that can be used when negotiating. I have no qualms that Brendan is going to excel at negotiating. Without further ado, Brendan Francis, the negotiator.
Okay, I asked Brendan who he would want to be mentored by. Now, Brendan, if you see behind him, has 1 million books. And that's only a fraction, I think. So he had to really think about this, and who he came up with was Luke Skywalker. And did you know that Return of the Jedi was also a book? So there are books for Star Wars. And there it is, right there. So what Brendan told me was, in this book, Luke Skywalker sees the good in his father and wants to restore that in him. There's no longer a desire to fight him physically, but just to bring about the good that's buried in another man. He knows what he's about and willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of one man. He would be a wonderful mentor. That's wonderful. Thank you, Brendan. Brendan's title is The Negotiator. Brendan Francis.
This is by far one of the most exciting topics that I've had to talk about in this dynamic leadership pathway. And when I saw that level 3 started out with negotiation, so much excitement and so many stories just came flooding into my head. So I want to be clear that while I did learn quite a bit about negotiations and all the different styles and levels, you can ask me about it later. This speech is not about anything I learned in that pathway, but more on the experiences I've had negotiating throughout my life thus far, what I've gleaned over the years from negotiating. So for this next 5 to 7 minutes, I am no longer Brendan Francis, speaker number 3, but I am the negotiator. Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, tonight I will talk about negotiation as it exists in 3 facets of my life. My profession, back in my childhood, and in my heart. For the past 5 years, I worked at a construction company in a project management type role. And if you haven't worked in a project management type role, almost every single day, every single scenario offers an opportunity to negotiate at some level. And I've often found over the years, there's been a stereotype with others I've worked with and a lot in the construction industry that the most important value is protecting yourself, protecting your own interests at any costs. And I've had many conversations where people have said, in worse words that I'm about to use, you need to be a jerk to X, Y, and Z and these people. It's all about your interests. Do whatever it takes to protect yourself, protect our money, protect us. And I remember specifically realizing that this competitive, aggressive mentality towards negotiation and project management is not my style at all. And I even remember sitting down at some point after work and talking about it with a friend and saying, I don't care if this ruins my career. I don't care if I'm a terrible project manager. I'm not going to stoop to those levels to work with people like that for the rest of my life. And so I found through this pathway, the area of negotiation that most accurately fit my ideal is collaboration. And this is by far something that sparks the most in relationship building and is also by far the most time consuming. And I've even felt most days it would be easier to pick up the phone and scream and yell at somebody to do what they need to do taking the time to foster relationships through work, either in my company or with contractors, with a client, with a design team, has been laborious, but it has fostered relationships. And oftentimes, when it comes to negotiation, I know what the other person wants, and I know them well enough where I can speak candidly and work with something that's mutually beneficial for both of us. So it is a lot of work, but it often results in long-lasting friendships and often very quick negotiations. So I could appeal to them instead of yelling at them. And while I'm grateful for everything that I've learned through my career, this isn't a new skill. This is something that in a lot of ways has been intuitive in me since I was a little kid. I remember there was such a strong desire as a small child to want to make sure everyone in the neighborhood was included in whatever we were doing. And I knew most of the kids in the neighborhood well enough that if I was playing with one or two, we could maybe wrestle if it was a bunch of guys. But if the whole neighborhood was together, there was all different ages and size, boys and girls, and finding a game that was enjoyed by all was fun. So to be able to know them well enough and to argue, negotiate with everybody so that everybody could be involved was amazing. And to be fair, I didn't always use this skill to benefit others. I used it often to benefit myself, usually to stay out of trouble. There's a distinct memory when I was 10 years old where a group of us were waiting for a Boy Scout meeting to start. We all had our uniforms on, and so as naturally happens, we started roughhousing. So we're wrestling, we're throwing each other around, and one of the younger kids, I grabbed every single button on him. Immediately he starts crying with tears and anger in his face. He says, "I'm gonna tell on you." So of course, I'm starting to panic because I don't want to get in trouble, and I certainly don't know how to put buttons back on. So what am I gonna do? So I pull him aside and I said, Tim, I know I was having a lot of fun, and it seemed like you were having a lot of fun too. And if you tell on me, we probably won't be able to play together anymore. And it is the end of the summer. You've been wearing this vest. By next summer, that vest isn't even going to fit anymore. So there's no reason. You're going to get a new one anyway. So might as well just keep it to ourselves and not ruin our friendship by tattling. Successful negotiation, not my best moment. But on a serious note, one of the most impactful negotiations in my life thus far has been with myself. There are times when my mind, my heart are often at odds with each other, both wanting different things. And this challenge came in the form of what I was going to do after I graduated from RIT. Back in 2014, I had two families. My physical family, my mom, my dad, my three younger brothers, and they were all moving to North Carolina. And I was ready to move out of my parents' house, but not quite ready to leave my brothers. And on the other hand, I had my friends and my spiritual family here in Rochester, the people that I loved, who loved me, we supported each other, to help me be a better person than I could ever be by myself. And my last year at RIT was full of pros and cons and negotiation with what my life would look like. So as I stand here electronically giving a speech in Rochester, you could probably guess what decision I made, and I haven't regretted it one day. And while I do miss them very much, especially my brothers, I know the choice was for the better. Negotiations take many forms. Many of them I've used throughout the years, but I feel strongly that the most impactful negotiations are the ones where two parties can come together to make an agreement. Both are bettered by whatever outcome is decided upon, and perhaps they can even walk away as friends. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Brendan, for that inspiring speech about negotiation, collaboration, and joining with people, not working against them. Let's take 1 minute and send Brendan some feedback. Hassan, 1 minute. Okay, I think that's been about a minute. Wonderful speeches, thank you. We will now move on to the table topics portion. So get your spontaneity on and pull out your courage and pursue excellence here, especially if you don't like doing it. Raise that hand, get those hands up. To lead this part, we have Ajita. I asked Ajita also who she would like to be mentored by from the books that she has read, and many of you will appreciate this. Ajita would love to be mentored by Dumbledore from Harry Potter. Dumbledore is a mentor who teaches you what you need to know, lets you try your strength, and lets you learn from your mistakes, thus getting the best out of you. Dumbledore would be a marvelous and magical mentor. Thank you very much, Ajita. Without further ado, Ajita.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. This is one of my favorite sections in our meeting. So before we move ahead with our table topics today, let's call upon our functionaries to tell us the rules of table topics. Can we have the rules, Mr. Grammarian?
Yes, you need to use the word of the day, which someone is going to tell me.
Adept.
Adept.
Adept. A-D-E-P-T. Adept. So the word of the day is adept. It means skilled or well-practiced. So you could say that I am adept at being a grammarian, but I'm not as adept at being the word watcher. To qualify for the table topics award, you need to use the word of the day, which is adept.
Thank you, Mr. Grammarian. Next on, let's hear from our functionary timer to tell us the timing rules for table topics.
So to qualify for best table topics, the speaker should speak within 1 to 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I will show them the green card. 1 minute and a half, the yellow card, and at 2 minutes, sorry, the red card, and you will have 30 seconds to wrap.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. So moving forward, can we have some volunteers for table topics? Who would like to go first? Preetham.
Yes, I'm here.
So pick a number from 1 to 5, and I will ask you a question, and then you can tell us your answer in 1 minute.
4.
Okay. So what is that one skill which you feel you truly excel at?
Okay. Sajida asked me, what is the one skill that I truly excel at? So over the last 1 year, me, Xavier, and another guy called Justin, we started a business. We thought that it would be fun to do something that's out of our comfort zone. And through it, we discovered that the biggest challenge in business is talking to people. We go out every day, talk to 5 people, 10 people, and just today, we had a terrible interview with a vice president of a company. I asked some questions that were probably out of his comfort zone, and he gave me an attitude like, I'm the vice president, you are a student, I don't have time for you, don't waste my time. So when we have those meetings, it's very hard to compose yourself, find the calm inside yourself, and keep on going, doing the tasks throughout the day. So over doing these meetings, we have been doing 5 to 10 meetings every day. I have found that I have become very adept and started excelling at dealing with people, especially negative attitudes of people. this is something I've realized, that once we go out with a message, with any product, business message, or any kind of help to people that can change something in their lives, not everyone is going to accept it. Some people will say, go away and never come back. So dealing with those things is hard. And every day that I do it, I am getting so good at uh, becoming more adept at handling those negative things. After the interview with the vice president today, Xavier told me, Pritam, don't worry about it. He's just one person of the 7 billion people on the planet. There will be more people that will be willing to talk to us, help us out, and maybe become a business partner. So that's the attitude we need to keep when we go out and talk to people. Not everyone is going to like us, not everyone is going to accept us, but we would rather run with one than drag 1,000 around. That's the attitude I have started to develop over this period of 1 year doing our business. I can't see the timer, Hassan. Oh, it's red card. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Pritam. That was a nice story shared. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
Xavier? Okay, pick a number from 1 to 4.
3.
3. Okay, so the question for you is perfection or excellence? What would you choose?
Thank you, Ajita. Perfection or excellence? I guess I could sit up here and say, you know what, I want to be perfect. Or I could be like, you know what, I am already perfect. But I would clearly know that that is not true. That's why I feel like the more realistic path is excellence, because anyone can do it. It's just saying in your head, you know what, how can I be better tomorrow than I was today? And not only that, getting feedback on that, of saying, because I mean, probably the hardest things is to actually find where you suck, unless you really suck. But and then to find the steps that you can adeptly use to get better. The best way I've found is to follow somebody that's already good at it. When I was challenged last May to lose a lot of weight, I followed somebody that already lost 100 pounds using keto diet. And since then, I lost 50 pounds in 6 months and have kept it off, which is amazing. And certainly something I appreciate. Miss Toastmaster.
Thank you, Xavier. That was a nice table topic. Who would like to go next? Any more volunteers? Okay. Fran, you would like to go? Okay. Pick a number from 1 to 3.
2.
Okay. So what is that one skill which you always wanted to develop and you never got a chance to do that?
Wow. Thank you. Speeches. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm already saying a lot of filler words, but I would say data science is something that I've always wanted to work on developing, that has always seemed extremely inaccessible to me. And mainly because I'm a words person. I've always been more adept with working with words, with writing, with even just like speaking one-on-one with people. And I'm comfortable in the arts and anything that has to do with creative expression. But when it comes to data science and anything with the word data in the label or job or task, I guess when it comes to data, well, not anything, because I do actually work with databases, but when it comes to data science specifically, I think it's the word science added to it that makes it more intimidating to me, because I'm not a science person and I'm not a math person, although I am a content person. So I would say that, and it's also becoming more important in today's society to be able to really manipulate data and using various tools that can make that data more powerful. So yeah, I would say that that is something that has always eluded me as a skill, Madam Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Even people from science fear data science, so you are still good.
Oh, really? That's good to know. Interesting.
Mr. Timer, do we have time for one more table topic?
Yeah, I think we have time for 1 minute. One question.
Okay. Do we have any more volunteers who would like to go? Okay, Ashutosh. So pick a number from 1 to 2.
1.
Okay. So the question for you is, what is the definition of success to you?
Dissatisfied or unsatisfied, I don't know the exact term over here, is the one characteristic that will define me right now, in the past, or throughout my life. So success for me will never be an end goal. It will be certain number of milestones that are to be achieved in a venture that I've decided to pursue. As of now, at this stage of my life, I would say success is something where I would fulfill my immediate academic goals and try to get recognition in the field of my interest. And from there onwards, my goals will keep on evolving. It will be in the field of my interest or some other place. So I cannot give a definite quantifier on what success means to me or define it solidly, but being adept at whichever goals or whatever goals I set for myself and keep on achieving them and iteratively revising them accordingly is my way towards achieving my definition of success. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Ashutosh. So to qualify for a virtual chocolate, you have, so we'll check later based on the votes and the function and with the functionaries if everyone qualifies. So Mr. Timer, does everyone qualify based on the time?
Everybody except Pritam.
Okay. And Mr. Grammarian, did everyone use the word of the day?
I believe I heard everyone use the word of the day. Does anyone want to fess up if they didn't?
Okay, so I will put the list of all the people who participated in table topics in the chat, and you can send me your votes in a private message. With that, I'll hand it back to Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ajita. Wonderful, everyone. Thank you for having the courage to pursue excellence. Jumping in there. We will now move on to evaluations. We had 3 speeches and 3 evaluators. And to lead this section is Mommy. I asked Mommy, who would you like to be mentored from all of the many thousands of characters you've read and the books that you've read? And he told me about a book called 1 Minute Manager. And there's a character in there, the manager, His name is Ken Blanchard. And this character was able to inspire, set goals, evaluate performances, and help others to grow. And so Mommy would like to be mentored by Mr. Blanchard. Mommy, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and distinguished guests. Welcome to this portion of our meeting, the general evaluation. It's one of my favorites. Maybe every officer of the meeting will claim that their portion is one of their favorites, but this is definitely one of my favorites in the meeting because it helps us to improve. As an adept of continuous improvement, I strongly believe that evaluations and feedback in Toastmasters are the best tools for us to keep on improving. Because not only the speakers receive feedback on what they did and how they can improve in the future, but we also, the audience, can learn from those feedback how to evaluate, how to even integrate those feedback in our own speeches in the future. This section will have three main components. The first one will be the evaluation of the prepared speeches. Then we will hear from the functionaries who helped to manage the meeting, how we did, and I will provide a very brief feedback as well on the general conditions of the meeting. Before we start, Mr. Timer, can you please tell us what are the rules for the evaluation?
The time for evaluation is 2 to 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes, I will show the green card, 2 minutes and a half, the yellow card, and at 3 minutes, the green card. And the evaluator will have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Timer. The first portion of this section as well is the evaluation of the prepared speeches. To introduce the evaluators, I asked them the following question. If you were to go back in time and be a teenager today, what would be your best single advice to yourself? The first speech was given by Chitra. And evaluating Chitra, we had Kelly. To that question, Kelly responded that, good question, and it made me truly consider what advice would have been most useful to me back then. I would tell myself, don't sweat the small stuff and stop being so busy. Let's welcome Kelly for her evaluation about Chitra's speech.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Chitra. As Chitra's mentor, it was a pleasure to be able to hear her thoughts about mentorship in her speech tonight. And I did give some recommendations before her speech, which she took on, like standing for her speech. So I appreciated the way that you were able to do that, to engage the audience a little bit more with a different position and being able to connect with us in that way. Also, you used some good eye contact by looking into the video screen and looking around here and there during your speech. I appreciated the way that you went outside the box and asked the audience questions instead of pausing and being awkward when nobody answered at first. You were specific with the Toastmasters that you asked to answer the questions. That was thoughtful and a good way to get people to participate and not let the time lull too much. Also, you were spontaneous in using some of the characteristics that they had mentioned later in your speech to say how that was helpful. So that was a good mental note that you were really listening to what your audience was telling you and giving them feedback about it. I loved your personal story about your parents in the grocery store and the lessons that they taught you and throughout your life and evaluating actions, etc. The way that you also described how mentorship could maybe not be beneficial to someone is if you take it and you're lazy about it. And I liked how you said that that was being like a blind following in that. So wonderful descriptions, and then your grape reaper there, the stick was a good analogy. For a couple of things to be able to improve on, I found that when you first started, you jumped right into it. So I was a little caught off guard because I was trying to mentally just catch up with you. So maybe taking a little bit more of a pause before you jump right into your speech, especially on video, so everybody can turn off their mics and be ready, might be helpful for the future. Also, your conclusion seemed sped up as well. And I'm not sure what your timing was, but I think you still had plenty of time. So maybe elaborating and putting in conclusion all the wonderful points that you made through your speech, bringing that all together at the end would give it better organization. Finally, I think some vocal variety would have been good, maybe a conversation with your parents or with your mentor and bringing that in. So overall, wonderful speech. Thank you for sharing your heart about mentorship and the things that you taught me throughout it. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Kelly, for that thoughtful feedback. The second speaker was Cyril. Evaluating Cyril is Grant. To the question I asked, Grant responded, get off the television or computer and develop other hobbies that get you involved with other people. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Grant for his evaluation about Cyril's speech.
Thank you, Mommy. Love is powerful. Cyril, let me see. I'm trying to find you on my screen. Oh, there you are. Yeah, thanks. That was a wonderful speech. You used a great quote from your father, starting with, do some good today because of tomorrow. And when you said that, it immediately reminded me of a Reddit quote that I read, today you, tomorrow me. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with that. You use stories very well to get your point across. Your stories were very easy to follow and all added to the goal of your speech, and that was to spread love around the world. I don't know how close you were to being within time. The timer will speak more about that. But if you wanted to talk, to extend your speech, then you could have used the rule of 3 to talk more about your experiences here in the US. Kind of talk about either another story and where you received help from other people, or maybe even you helped other people, to kind of inspire us on how to learn about how to do that ourselves, learn about what you did so that we can follow along as well. Regarding your body language, which you asked me to look out for, your clapping during the song at the end was great, but I saw that during the rest of your speech, your hands were kind of in front of your body, kind of like, I'm kind of low down here, so you can't really see this very well. And in fact, when you were doing it, they were at the bottom half of the screen, so you could only see kind of half of your hands. But my suggestion would be to avoid joining your hands when you give your speech. So you kind of remain open to all of us. Another thing, your song at the end of the speech was very interactive and got us involved. However, I personally couldn't follow along because I simply didn't know the song. What is it? Love's in Need of Love Today by Stevie Wonder. And I think at least a few other people in the audience here were in the same boat as me. So to wrap up, you were a very sequential and logical storyteller. And you should definitely make sure to choose a song that is widely known if you want us to sing along to it. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter if we know it, if you're just going to tell us what the song is anyway. Your speech was very inspiring, and I'm going to leave with the quote from your father, "Do some good today because of tomorrow." Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you, Grant, for that great evaluation. The last speaker, but not the least, was my mentor, Mr. Brendan. Evaluating Brendan is Deb. To the question of what single best advice you'd give yourself if you were a teenager today, Deb said, the awkwardness won't last forever. Do hang in there. Let's welcome Deb for her evaluation.
Thank you, General Evaluator. I'd like to also encourage everyone, the awkwardness of speaking in public doesn't last forever. So hang in there, keep on the speeches and the table topics. More importantly, I want to focus our time on Brendan's fantastic speech about his path on learning to be a negotiator and all those different examples. Overall, Brendan, I think you did a phenomenal job of making some solid and very relatable and humorous examples for us. I also love that you used the rule of threes. You know, you gave us 3 good solid stories, and it represented different areas of your life. I think it fits from, you know, childhood to being, you know, in the professional realm and what was important to you in that space, along with having to make big life decisions, big life personal decisions, which I am particularly grateful that you stayed in Rochester, so thank you. I think just an area I might consider for your, if you wanted to give this speech again, is considering going in chronological order. You know, as a child, giving this humorous, hilarious example, how you convinced your friend not to tattle on you, to now kind of amping up a little bit the seriousness of the decisions as they grow. Not to say that getting in trouble with your mom isn't serious. With my mom, it would have been incredibly serious. So don't want to downplay that. But just considering chronological order to help guide us to each point. Overall, great examples. Love the rule of threes. Excellent job with tone, communication. I know this is a tough platform to get your message across, your story across, but overall, very solid speech. So thank you for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you all the evaluators for your great evaluations. Now the next section of this portion will be the functionary reports. The first functionary we'll hear from tonight will be Mr. Timer. Hassan, can you please tell us how we did timing-wise?
Thank you very much. I would like to start my report with the speakers. Shitra, Formit, and 57 seconds. Cyril, 6 minutes and 52. And Brendan, 7 and 2 seconds. For table topics, we had 4 speakers. The first one, Pritam, 2 and 35. Xavier, 1 and 44. Fran, 1 and 50. Ashutosh, 1 and 16. The evaluators, they were all in the time. Ellie, 3 minutes and 20. Grant, 2 minutes and 35. And Deb, 1 minute and 56 seconds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hassan, for your report. The second functionary we'll hear from will be Mr. Counter Alasira. Can you please tell us your report?
Everyone did great. Everyone was below 5 except Fran. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. Very succinct, concise report. Yeah. The third and the last, not the least, again, will be Mr. Alex, who was a grammarian for tonight's meeting. Let's hear insight from Alex on how we did.
You, Mr. General Evaluator. I'm going to talk a little bit about pronunciation. There's just one word that I noticed. We were talking about Silicon Valley, and we said Silicon Valley. And silicone is the goop that you squirt into things in your bathroom if you're doing some plumbing. Silicon is what you make chips out of. So silicon, not silicone. I also wanted to give some feedback about cliches. There were two cliches that I noticed tonight. One is without further ado. Without further ado is a great way of saying everything I just said is BS. Don't listen to me. So don't say without further ado. And another one that I noticed is last but not least. That one was coming from Mommy. And it's not necessary, and it starts making you wonder, okay, well, somebody is least then. I wonder who it was. So we don't need it. So work on getting rid of those cliches. A couple things that I noticed that were wonderful about tonight's meeting. We had a wonderful metaphor from Chitra in this grapevine that's growing on a stick and how the stick supports it, but that the vine doesn't have anywhere else to grow. So that was a wonderful metaphor. It added a lot of layers of meaning. And whenever you have a metaphor like that, where it's a new metaphor, or that there's opportunities then to even extend the meaning further by extending that metaphor. And so think about those layers of meaning that it adds, that the stick isn't going anywhere, so the grapevine doesn't have anywhere to grow. So what does the grapevine do next? Or what happens in nature to kind of extend that metaphor and find ways to do that. But that can often create a very powerful story in speech if you extend metaphors that way. It's a very powerful rhetorical tool. Another thing that we did well tonight is dialogue. I love, Cyril, the dialogue that you added to your speech, that it's so much more powerful simply to have that back and forth instead of, well, and then he was like, and then I was like, and then he was like. It is so much better to simply have the dialogue and to get into those characters. So well done with that. And the last thing that I want to point out is that sometimes we break rules to make better sentences. So one of the ways that we can do that is sentence fragments. And Brendan had an excellent example of that when he finished telling his story about convincing his friend not to tattle on him. And he said, "Successful negotiation, not my best moment." And that creates this humor, and that humor wouldn't have been as good if he had used complete sentences. He could have said, well, that was successful negotiation, but it wasn't my best moment. That would be a complete sentence, but it's not as funny as that shorter, chopped version of it. So we break the rules of grammar when we need a shorter sentence to get a more punchy punchline. So those are my grammarian notes for tonight. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Alex. Now I'll give my personal evaluation of the meeting. Overall, we did great. I have noticed not only today that since we started having online meetings, we just log in at just 6:30. If we could do it earlier, like 5 to 10 minutes before, for us to be able to start on time, that would be great. But it's really amazing how we've been able to embrace this new way of having meetings in a very limited time that we started having these meetings on Zoom. One behavior also that I really appreciate is the fact that we kept on putting on mute when we are not speaking. That's very important, and it helps people to remain focused on the meeting. That's great as well. So overall, kudos to everyone, the speakers, evaluators, and people who took their chances to speak during the table topics. Mr. Toastmaster, over to you.
Thank you, Mommy. I'm sorry I missed most of that evaluation section. I was trying to keep Eden at bay. I trust they were excellent. At this time, I have the distinct pleasure of announcing the winner of our table topics. It has been determined. So unmute and do your drum roll. Fran.
Hey.
Hey.
Didn't hear the name.
Fran. Yeah. She seemed very cool and calm with that announcement.
I didn't hear it. Thank you.
Yes. So we send virtual chocolate and wonderful sweetness to you right now, or whatever your favorite dessert may be. I also wanted to say, as I end out my portion here, that if you haven't seen this movie, Sarah and I are on the same page because it's exactly what she was thinking about choosing this theme, actually, and we didn't talk. You can borrow it from me. I'll bring it to your doorstep. If you have an old-fashioned antique DVD player. It's on Netflix too, though. Lots of Bollywood is on Netflix, which is really fun and awesome. And this is on there. So it's a wonderful movie. Really has been impactful for many of us about pursuing what really is excellent in our lives. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chitra, our president.
Thank you, Matt. This section was really wonderful to bring in everybody, kids and family and friends to around and talk about it. I would like you all to invite your friends and family for the future section as well. And if you have to do give a speech or new roles, if you for new roles and speeches, you can contact Sarah. And if you want to become a member of the club, contact Ala Sarah. I wanted to ask your opinion on how you would like to go about for the summer term. Would you guys be willing to have a weekly session or a bi-weekly session? If you're willing for a weekly session, just raise your hands. A weekly session in the summer. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people.
As long as it's online, it's easy, right?
Yes. Okay, so when most of us are in favor of a weekly session, so we will try to continue a weekly session. I would like to talk to my e-board members before that, and there is a new member, a guest in our team who is Saurav. Hi, Saurav.
Hi.
Can you start the video and introduce yourself and how you like the club?
Fine. I just woke up like it's early morning in India. My sister invited me, Ajita. So it's like a third time I have joined this Toastmaster, and every time, yes, I have to share my whatever like I have experienced here. So I seriously like I like the way people used to communicate here, like especially like while the different way how people can communicate and express. Like even I am like an introvert, and see while talking to you guys, like you guys are virtually like distribute, like somebody is in some different country and all, and seriously like I was feeling okay how I can communicate, what I'll communicate. But yeah, you gave me an opportunity. I like the way that people used to talk, like it's a pretty I was not aware of, okay, if I have to give a speech and can I can sing a song as well, to get a bit like how I can connect with the folks. So I was not aware of these things, and today I heard that, and I, okay man, even I can do that. Means obviously I don't interact much with the people, but if I have to, and if I have to connect well with the audience, then probably I can use this. So I thought, okay, it's a pretty nice, like, you know, I learned a pinch of thing. Like, it's, I know that it's a very small thing, but yeah, I can use these things. So yeah, it's a great experience. And I was thinking, okay, fine, is it possible every time I can connect with you people and you folks, like, okay, and even I can do or contribute a pinch of things. Let's see, like, what I can do possibly from my end.
Thank you, Ajita, for bringing in Saurav to the Tigertales family. We would love to have you, Saurav, in upcoming meetings and contribute and have fun with us.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And with that, I would like to adjourn the meeting and